Hi guys, I'm Dr. Tara Tobias and welcome you all back to this channel. In today's video, we are going to end the year by going over a top 10 list. I basically glanced through all the videos from 2020 and went through the exercises that I probably talked about the most or used in the most videos, and some of the benefits of that exercise and why it ends up getting used, or why it ended up getting used in so many different videos for so many different conditions. So they're all exercises that I believe you get a lot of bang for your buck. And then in addition to that, I thought for the final video of 2020, it would be great to go through a lot of the comments and come up with what I think is the #1 comment that I received for 2020. So definitely stay to the end of the video so that you will see if maybe your comment was the one that I am ranking as the top comment overall out of all the amazing comments I got this year, what I believe is the #1 comment. But before we dive into that, if you're new to this channel and you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so that you'll get notified every time I upload new videos. And now let's go ahead and get this show started. #1 on my list of favorite exercises, and again, these are in no particular order. I could not rank them even if I tried. The first exercise is tall kneeling. In particular, what I call sit backs, where you sit back on your heels and then you come forward. I like this exercise for a variety of reasons. One, it is out of synergy, meaning a lot of times after damage to the brain or the spinal cord, the hip and the knee want to extend at the same time, and we really want to break up that pattern to get back to more coordinated quality movement. And tall kneeling is excellent for that because it keeps your knee bent and you can really just focus on the muscles around the hip. The other reason I like this exercise is because you're lower to the ground. So for a lot of people, if you can get into this position, being lower to the ground, it's a little bit safer. It decreases the anxiety a little bit, so it allows you to really just focus on that hip control. Now, #2 on the list is bridging. I show this exercise in a ton of videos. The reason I love this exercise is because, again, it is out of synergy. So probably a lot of these are fresh in my mind because last week's video, which was on out of synergy movements, but I do show this in a ton of different videos. But again, you're working on that hip extension, just like the tall kneeling, without the knee extending. So you're breaking up a synergy pattern. Extensor synergy is one of the most common synergy patterns that happens after any kind of damage to your brain or your spinal cord. Now, the next exercise on the list, we're going to get away from the leg here for a minute and go to the upper body or restoring arm movement. And again, probably an exercise that I've shown in at least 5 or 6 videos, probably more, is a lat stretch. Super duper important. A lot of times this is one of the main culprits that interferes with overhead reaching. It also contributes to that arm staying rotated inward, and it is one of the reasons why people cannot lift their arm past shoulder height. When it's tight and it keeps that arm internally rotated, the arm can only get so high before bones in the shoulder start bumping into each other. And so stretching that lat out is extremely important to restore good quality reaching motion in the arm. Again, sticking with the arm. Another one of my favorite exercises is shoulder external rotation stretching. So without a doubt, if you have suffered damage to your brain that has affected an area in the brain that controls the arm, most likely you have tightness in all the muscles that internally rotate the shoulder. That is extremely problematic. Again, same reason I said in the previous exercise, when the arm is internally rotated, things just bump into each other in the shoulder, and you're only going to be able to get your arm to a certain height before you probably start having pain in that shoulder, and where the mechanics just aren't going to be really good to allow you to maximize the strength that you do have in the shoulder to get that arm through a full range of reaching motion. So external rotation, stretching, very, very important. The next exercise on the list, again, sticking with the arm here for a minute, is not one that I have shown in a ton of videos, but I do talk about it in a lot of videos whenever I'm talking about the arm, and that is weight bearing. So I'm going to kind of lump two exercises into this group. There are two different ways that you can weight bear on the upper extremity. Weight bearing is extremely important because it does help to decrease spasticity if you have spasticity, but it also helps to kind of activate muscles. When you're kind of approximating those joints a little bit more, it does something that we call like give you more proprioceptive input into that arm, so you really do kind of feel more where that arm is in space through when you get pressure or weight through those joints. So absolutely critical. Again, if you suffered any kind of damage to your brain or your spinal cord that controls the arm, very, very valuable. Now, the reason I said I'm lumping two in here is there's some people that can't straighten their arm, so they can't do weight bearing on an extended arm. And if that is the case, you can do a method with the elbow bent, just resting it on a table and just doing weight shifts onto that arm. If you can extend your arm and you have the wrist range of motion, the preferred method is on a straight arm. And now we're going to go into a category for things to improve your walking. One of my favorite exercises that I've shown in a ton of videos, and actually I just posted on Instagram, so if you're not following me on Instagram yet, bring in the new year by following me on Instagram and getting daily exercises. I try and post an exercise every day. Most of the time it's an exercise from a video that I've done on YouTube. So if you're not following me yet, head over there. I think you'll find a lot of value in that. Especially for those of you that comment below that you don't like me talking, because I definitely don't talk over on YouTube in my post. But anyway, back to the exercise that I just posted. It is partial sit to stands. Love, love, love this exercise for a variety of reasons. One is most of the time when I talk about adding this home exercise to your program, I'm talking about doing it in a way where you're biasing the weaker leg. It's extremely common for people to compensate by doing everything with their stronger leg or putting more weight on the stronger leg. So these partial sit to stands with a single leg bias, I think, is extremely valuable in breaking that habit and getting more even weight distribution on both legs. So the next exercise on my top 10 list is a higher level balance activity. Again, it's an exercise that I've shown in a few videos, and that's why it made the list. These medicine ball rolls, where you're basically standing on your involved leg and rolling a medicine ball kind of in a half circle around your involved leg. So most real life scenarios don't involve just stepping forward or stepping backwards. There's different surfaces, there's turning, all of this challenges that leg in different planes of motion. So it's good to really practice that in a controlled environment before going out into what I call an uncontrolled environment out in the world, where those types of challenges are a little bit more difficult when you have other stimuli in the environment, other distractions, thinking about other things. So I like isolating or working on this activity in a controlled environment before you take it out into the real world. The next exercise that made the list of top 10 exercises for 2020 is pelvic tilts. Now, I probably don't use this exercise in enough videos because of all the benefits that there are for this exercise, but definitely pelvic tilt, especially if you have any kind of hemiplegia, one side usually becomes shortened, or you do have some asymmetries when comparing the right side of the body to the left side of the body. Usually one side has structures that are a little bit shortened and one side has structures that are a little bit weaker. So pelvic tilt really balances out the trunk muscles, levels out those shoulders for anyone who looks in the mirror and their shoulders are tipped to one side. Same thing with the hips. If you look in the mirror and your one hip seems higher or lower, these pelvic tilts really do work to strengthen the muscles on the weak side, but also stretch out the muscles on the shortened side to make even length between the shoulder and the hip on the left side of the body and the right side of the body. In addition to that, it is a great way to work on a lot of the trunk muscles that assist with balance. So because you're sitting when you do these pelvic tilts, it's a safe way to work on, again, a lot of these muscles that help with balance, which in my opinion has a dramatic impact on walking. The next exercise on the list is a sideline knee to chest. Now, the reason I like this exercise is it works on so many things, but mostly it works on all the muscles that are usually weak or underactive in the leg. Again, for those of you that have suffered damage to your brain or your spinal cord, what you're doing is you're basically moving that leg on a diagonal. Again, probably kind of in that same category of challenging that leg in different planes of motion. So the way that I do this, instead of versus just like what I call the Jane Fonda or just straight leg lifts up in the air on your side, is you bring your knee to the chest and kind of down towards the mat. And then when you're extending it or you're lifting it, you're straightening it back out. Again, you're working the hip in multiple planes because of the diagonal motion of this activity. Again, versus just what a lot of you see, which is just the straight leg lift to the side. The other thing I like about this is whether you are laying on the weaker side or the less active side, or whether the less active side is facing upwards, you're working really both hips. The bottom leg is really stabilizing you and keeping you on your side while you're doing this activity. So again, probably if I did have to rank these, which I'm not gonna do, this would be either in the number 1 or the number 2 spot. That's how much I love this activity. I don't care if you're in the early stage of rehab, middle stage, or the late stage of rehab. Even when I do this and I don't have damage to my brain or my spinal cord, it's really challenging to control that movement and keep it nice and smooth. So definitely recommend that activity. And then the last activity, again, these are no particular order, these are not ranked whatsoever, is, and it's not really an activity, but there's a ton of activities you can do in this position, is prone on elbows. If you're someone who can't roll from your back to your stomach and you're in therapy, ask your therapist to make that your #1 goal. Laying on your stomach is extremely valuable. But again, if you've never laid on your stomach, I really do strongly recommend you work with a physical therapist the first time you do this. But there's so many things going on. A, you're in a mostly flexed position. Most of the time you're in the hospital. And then if you go home with a wheelchair, you're sitting a lot when you get home in your recovery, you're flexed. So for a good portion of your recovery early on, you were in a flexed position. So just laying on your stomach really helps to stretch out all those muscles that I guarantee you have probably become a little bit shortened. The other thing is on your elbows, you are getting that weight bearing through the arms, which I love. You're also working on a lot of the stabilizers for the shoulder blade, which is extremely important. The shoulder blade needs to be stable, and most of the time the muscles that stabilize that shoulder blade are underactive. So it helps with the stability of that shoulder blade. And then if you can, I love it when someone can bend their knee in this position. Again, it's another out of synergy motion from that extensor synergy, which is extremely common. Isolating that knee bending is critical for walking. And then that is it for the top 10 list. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. What am I ranking as the winner of the #1 comment that I've gotten this year? And mind you, there are tons of comments that just motivate me, inspire me, enlighten me to something maybe that I was missing or didn't know or didn't understand about neuro recovery. So trust me when I say, I see comments daily that I just think are amazing, not just for what they teach me, but for what they teach or offer the community. But the #1 comment in 2020 is from Zita Oraz, and her comment is, I did the exercise in this video so many times that the passive range of movement became an active movement. And I'm done. That's it. If there's any message that I try and communicate and is my motivation behind this channel, it's to empower you with the knowledge to be making the best decisions and selecting the best exercises to get you to the next level in your movement recovery, and to really change the lens that you're viewing this from making a muscle bigger to this idea of motor learning. And if I was able to do that for one person and they actually implemented it and saw how valuable that was, then I've done my job. So for me, it's kind of selfish because there were, again, so many comments that benefited this community and so many comments where I actually learned something. But for totally selfish reasons, this is the #1 comment of 2020 for the reasons that I just said. And then that is it for this video. I have loved this year. You guys have made my 2020 probably one of my best years yet, despite everything else that's been going on in the world. I love doing this. I love being able to help more people than I could possibly even imagine helping just in my clinic. So I wouldn't be able to do it if it weren't for all of you and all of your positive feedback that keeps me motivated to keep learning from you, learning what your problem areas are, learning what you need help with, and doing my best to give you information to help you on your recovery journey. So I thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to wish you all a wonderful new year, and praying and hoping that everyone in the world can get through this year and that we all have a better 2021. I enjoyed spending time with you all today, and I will see you in the next video.